Ain't nothing like a Republican putting their foot down. Put that big feet down, Senator Kennedy. God bless Senator Kennedy. You might say this about him. You might not agree with this or this, but one thing we know, that the fella does have common sense. He does have common sense. Nothing but love, respect, salute to Senator Kennedy, man. A couple of you guys sent this over, but I want to send a huge shout out to my brother Lonnie, who sent this over a couple hours ago. And but a couple of y'all sent this. I seen this even in our Discord chat. And man, and this original video got over 1 million some views, man. So this is going viral. And it might be a older clip, but Senator Kennedy lists off Democrats' failures in brutal takedown, almost unwatchable. Yay! So enough of me talking. Let's go and jump straight in. This is gonna be a great video. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And well, we're not new to Democrat failures, especially these last 3.5, 4 years. People are still clapping on the crap, the nonsense, you know, the lies. Boy. Well, let's go and jump in, man. Enough of me yapping. Check it out.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Whitehouse, I just find this extraordinary. And I find the timing of this to be extraordinary. I think most of us can agree that America is this big, wide, open, free, sometimes dysfunctional, often imperfect, but always good country. And we all love it.
You just need common sense back in it. Sorry, y'all. I don't mean to interrupt. This is my only time interrupting. I'm sorry, y'all. We're sick of the failures, the liars. We need common sense back. Can we make common sense great again? Sorry, y'all. I'm done talking.
But we're going through a rough patch. Inflation is gutting our people like a fish.
Boy.
People in my state have to sell blood plasma in order to go to the grocery store. The border is wide open.
Wide open.
And that's under the jurisdiction of this committee. Now, I know some folks think that if you oppose illegal immigration, you are necessarily a racist. That's not the way the American people look at it. The American people support legal immigration, but they look at the southern border like their front door. Most Americans lock their front door at night. Not because they hate everybody on the outside, but because they love the people on the inside. And they want to know who's going into and coming out of their home. And I don't think that's unreasonable. We don't talk about it much anymore, but since the Affordable Care Act was passed, insurance premiums in America have tripled. We're not doing anything about it. We've always had people in America, unfortunately, who are too poor to be sick, but now many of those people are in the middle class because of our health care delivery system. We're going through a rough patch. Internationally, the world's on fire. The world's on fire in Eastern Europe. It's on fire in the Middle East. The embers are smoldering in the Indo-Pacific. You don't have to be Mensa material to see that this is all being coordinated between and among China and Russia and the Ayatollah in Iran. Their goal is to have Russia dominate Central and Eastern Europe, to have the Ayatollah in Iran dominate the Middle East, to have China dominate the Indo-Pacific and Sub-Saharan Africa and be free to make whatever move they want to in South America. Look at the democracies that are being overthrown in South America. And that is not a world that is safe for America. But what are we concentrating on? We have decided, Mr. Chairman, to attack another branch of our government. Now, Senator Whitehouse, I don't agree with you respectfully that the fundamental issue here is bribery at the Supreme Court. I don't believe that. And I don't believe you do either, sir. I think the fundamental issue here is that there's some people that don't like the opinions being issued by the United States Supreme Court. And that is your right. I've disagreed with many of the Supreme Court's opinions, but I haven't tried to destroy them. I think you're making a big mistake here, Mr. Chairman. I say that with all the respect I can muster. And here's my question. No one in the Milky Way with the possible exception of one of Hunter's hookers believes that all you're interested in is a few documents. Is your end game to subpoena Clarence Thomas and make him appear before the Judiciary Committee?
Does the senator yield the floor?
I was hoping I could
That a
get
rhetorical?
I was
I'm trying to figure out if that's a
hoping I
rhetorical
could get our
question or a real
chairman
one.
to give me some of his
I'm
thoughts.
sorry, I didn't realize that was directed to me, but I
Yes.
will respond. Our end game is to follow the facts. We cannot accumulate the facts without the cooperation of the witnesses. When the witnesses, after repeated attempts to appeal to them, have failed to produce these facts and documents, we've turned to a subpoena. But I can tell you, it's after a long, arduous journey where we've done everything we can to try to get their voluntary cooperation.
Well, Mr. Chairman, do you believe we can subpoena Clarence Thomas?
I haven't addressed that issue either
Well, we
privately or
have,
publicly.
and we say no.
I'm going to go to the roll call votes and then continue this discussion if the members wish to stay for that purpose. First is Judge Mustafa Kasabi, nominated to U.S. District Court for the District of Oregon. Does anyone seek recognition on the judge's nomination?
I do.
Senator Graham.
I think I voted almost 90-some% of the time for district court judges that were picked by senators working with the White House. I sort of like that. As a matter of fact, I just was able to work with the White House legal counsel to get a nominee from South Carolina up. I wouldn't have chosen any of these people, but I'm a little old-fashioned. I'd like to have senators still have input about district court judges in their state. And when you're out of power in the White House, we're working as best we can over here to find acceptable nominees. And I'm proud of what the committee's tried to do, and to the members in the minority been, I think, very reasonable. These two are just way out of bounds. I mean, just like over the top out of bounds. I do not trust these two nominees to give me a fair trial because I think they're so indoctrinated in their liberal thoughts and their attitudes about life. It oozes from their pores. I mean, you could feel it, not just hear it. These people are really committed to their causes, of which I almost don't share any of them. And it's okay to disagree with each other, but I don't believe they could resist the temptation to be a district court judge to advance their causes. And I've never said that before in this committee. But about these two, I believe that. So I'm voting no to both.
So the question is unfavorably reported.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Cruz?
you asked if people wanted to be recognized on. Well, I agree entirely with Senator Graham. The judges that have been nominated by Joe Biden have been extraordinary. They have been extreme. They've been so egregious.
Oh, Ted.
They fill me with a sense I could not have previously imagined having, which is I long for Barack Obama. Because although I disagreed with many of President Obama's judicial nominees, they were comparatively moderate when put next to the radicals that the Biden White House keeps putting forward. You look at Judge Mustafa Cashapp, his questionnaire and history, and you would be forced to conclude that he is a radical leftist, if not an outright Marxist. Now, those are not my words. In one essay he wrote, Cashapp argued that the integration of Marxism with traditional economic theories of property, specifically that of Locke and Bentham, would, quote, provide a framework for relationships that enhance each unique self. Here's a pro tip. If a guy is writing love letters to Marxism, maybe he's not the best candidate to be a federal judge. Also in that same piece, he argued, quote, the aspiration towards intimate knowing, the intimate knowing of oneself and others in our community, is a creative struggle towards redefining property. How many of y'all want to redefine property? And maybe the answer is all the members of the committee on the Democrat side do. Your constituents don't. Redefining property, being told, for example, the home, your family home that was your home and your mother's home and your grandmother's home is no longer your property. It is the state's to do with what they will. Redefining property is an objective of Marxist, and by Marxist I mean communist. Communism is not simply theoretical. My family has suffered at the hands of communists. And yet in the Biden administration, that appears to be a qualification for becoming a federal judge. Not only are his views extreme, but when it comes to gender and sex, they're really out there. In the Wisconsin Women's Law Journal, Judge Cashapp wrote a piece titled Destabilizing Power in Rape, Why Consent Theory in Rape Law is Turned on Its Head. He cited radical Professor Catherine McKinnon, who argued, quote, sexuality itself is a power web in which heterosexual relations per se are infused with violence and control, and that most intercourse is rape. Is it the position of the Democrats on this committee that, quote, heterosexual relations per se are infused with violence and control and most intercourse is rape? That's moonbeam nuts. And you all know that. But there's a reason every Democrat senator is looking down, because you can't defend these views to your constituents. You're counting on the fact that the corporate media will not tell your constituents about the loons you're voting to confirm.
Independent.
Cashapp, also in apparent agreement, quoted Professor McKinnon as saying, quote, I employ the view that rape is sex in order to focus on the significance of consent in rape law, and non-consent must be presumed. That's a lot of things, but that's not actually American criminal law. This guy's been nominated to be a real judge applying the real law. Cashapp tied these two together in the same article, where he quoted approvingly from McKinnon the phrase, quote, sexuality is to feminism what work is to Marxism. Now, to be honest, I don't know what the hell that means, but I don't like it. It's out there. What is it that you see this guy crowing about how wonderful Marxism is, and you say, hot diggity damn, we found us a judge? We also know that it is his view, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, will be central to his approach to the law. How do we know this? Well, because he said it. And here's his quote: DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is the heart and soul of the court system. Can we say that? Yeah, I just did. And I'm saying it proudly. Well, DEI, the radical anti-racism school that embraces discrimination, says we should discriminate against people that are perceived to be oppressors in favor of people that are categorized as victims. God help you if you're some poor schlub white guy who ends up in court in front of this guy. Apparently, the heart and soul of his court is to discriminate against you, because that's what he's embracing. He's also said that America is, quote, deeply Islamophobic. Well, we're the freest nation on the face of the earth, and somehow he couldn't seem to be bothered to worry about the rabid anti-Semitism that we're seeing at radical schools across this country, as the same kind of leftists like Judge Katsubai are announcing their allegiance to Hamas and terrorizing Jewish students. Katsubai's rulings on the bench are also extreme. Think back to the 2020 Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots all across the country. Major American cities burned for weeks, for months on end. Police cars were firebombed, police officers were murdered, stores were looted, people were assaulted. In Portland, Oregon, this was the federal courthouse. Does that bring warm tinglies about the fair enforcement of law? Portland, Oregon, the courthouse, the federal courthouse, was subjected to a 60-day siege, 2 months. Rioters firebombed the building. They fought federal agents. They used high-powered lasers to blind federal agents. 60 days, night after night after night, a federal court on fire. Well, what's Judge Katsubai's view on this? He wasn't in Portland, Oregon. He was in Eugene, Oregon. As Eugene, like the rest of the country, was facing risks from this riots, Eugene imposed a temporary curfew to try to impose law and order. What did Judge Katsubai do? Number one, he wrote an opinion recommending the curfew be struck down. Nope, you can't have a curfew. The night belongs to the rioters, to the people burning courthouses, not the people who'd like to be safe in their own homes. He went further than that. He actually denied qualified immunity to the city manager and the police chief and said, you know what, Mr. Police Chief? Because you imposed a curfew, because you tried to protect people's safety, you can be sued. In effect, he said, sue them for trying to keep the people safe and take their last penny. I understand a Democrat administration and a Democrat Senate is going to confirm liberal judges. That should not be news. What is astonishing is not a single Senate Democrat on this committee has been willing to demonstrate even one iota of independence in exercising advice and consent. When Donald Trump was president, he nominated a lot of judges. Y'all didn't like the Trump judges. You voted against pretty much all of them. I will tell you, I voted for most of them. But Republicans on this side, there were several judicial nominees that we said, no, this doesn't meet the standards, pull it down. And the Trump White House did. That's actually how the constitutional system is supposed to work. For whatever reason, Democrats on this committee don't believe in that. No matter what nutcase gets nominated, like the Politburo, you all vote da. Yesterday, we had a judicial nominee who 3 years ago signed an open memo to the governor of Connecticut calling on him to empty the prisons and release every violent criminal in Connecticut, release murderers and serial rapists and child molesters. Now, that's not your run-of-the-mill lefty. That position is nuts. I don't care how left-wing your state is. California, Vermont, Georgia, New Jersey, you can go to any of your states, grab your citizens and say, hey, what do you think? Good idea. We go down to the prison, let everyone go? Nobody's going to like that. Your citizens that you're elected to represent will say, what the heck is wrong with you? This judge is a radical, is extreme. If he's confirmed, we can count on him to let violent criminals out of jail. And I'll tell you, if Senate Democrats continue to rubber stamp whatever radical this White House sends them, people are going to die. When you release murderers from jail, they turn around and they commit more murders. And when that happens, the work of this committee, rubber stamping, putting extreme radicals on the bench, will have been directly responsible. And I hope you're prepared to look in the eyes of the victims' families, of the people that will pay the consequences of putting on the bench men and women that are manifestly unsuited to being judges.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kennedy.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to repeat what my colleague, Senator Cruz, said about Judge Cashapp, but he's not qualified to be on the federal bench. And everybody on this in this hearing today knows that. You heard the same testimony I heard. He's entitled to his beliefs. Look, about 90% of my personal philosophy is don't hurt somebody unless you have to defend yourself. Don't steal other people's stuff, and leave me alone. If you want to use different pronouns, that is your business. I may not agree, I may not do it, but that's your business. This is America, and you're free to do that. But this judge used his authority to require litigants in his courtroom to do what he thinks is politically correct. And he did that as a magistrate judge. And he'll do it as a federal district judge, and you know it. Once again, I don't care what his political beliefs are, but he has no right as a sitting judge to direct in writing litigants in his courtroom to stand up and introduce themselves by saying, my name is John Kennedy. My preferred pronouns are. Now, the judge said in his testimony that was voluntary. That's not true. I've read the order. And he said, but it's voluntary. It's voluntary. Right. I'm a litigant in his courtroom paying a lawyer $400 an hour to try to get my case resolved. And the man on the bench who's going to decide my case tells me to stand up and announce my pronoun. That's not voluntary. That's oppressive. And that alone, forget his writings, which Senator Cruz went through very eloquently. That alone tells me that he cannot exercise power maturely. If I could vote no twice, I would. And on this final point, when President Trump nominated people that weren't qualified to be on the federal bench, we killed those nominations. And several people on your side of the aisle, my Democratic colleagues, and on our side of the aisle did it. By my count, we killed 5 of them. Dead as fried chicken. And we didn't do it behind closed doors. We did it here in the committee. We demonstrated they weren't qualified. Now here's your chance. This man is not qualified to exercise power as a federal judge. It's bad enough that he's a magistrate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Judge Cassabai has responded to the questions that have been raised on this topic, and I'd like to read his response. Let me state unequivocally, as I did during my hearing, I am not and never have been a Marxist. I have never espoused nor subscribed to Marxist theories. Rather, I've been an active participant in and beneficiary of the American capitalist system, as is clear from my own holdings of private property and securities, as detailed in the statement of net worth provided to this committee. And there's more, if you wish to read it. Let me also note that he has served for 16 years on the state and federal bench and as a neutral appellate decision maker for 4 years on the Oregon Workers' Compensation Board. He has an ample record of service as a judge, and his philosophy is demonstrated in any rulings that he has handed down. So in defense of Judge Cassabai, I think some of the charges that are being made are wildly unsubstantiated. At this
Mr.
point,
Chairman, may I be heard for just 30 more seconds?
I've been very generous to
I
the
know you
Senate.
have. Would you be generous one more time?
I will. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the judge's response, but we all heard his testimony, and we all have read his record. And sometimes people don't tell the truth in their responses. I'm not calling the man a liar. I'm just saying, who are you going to believe? His written responses, probably crafted by the White House lawyers, or his testimony in committee? And I think what we're going to see going forward is more of these types of exchanges going on here today. When somebody is qualified to be on the federal bench, by God, I will stand up. I don't care what party they are. I was the lone Republican vote to confirm a nominee from Tennessee. I'm almost done, Mr. Chairman.
Almost
the
30
lone
seconds.
Republican vote. But from now on, if we're going to play it like this, we're going to have a debate on all of these nominees and talk about their testimony in committee and who was forthcoming and who wasn't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've been very kind, and I appreciate the extra time.
You're welcome.
Wow. Wow. Man, you guys send me some amazing things, y'all. Boy. Boy. But Durbin. But man, it was good to hear from Kennedy and Ted Cruz, man. Wow. Love those fellas, man. But you just can't make this up, man. And it all relates back, especially to the times. This election, man, is very, very important. It's what I want to tell you guys, man. Very, very important. And as you see, our DEI right now didn't earn it. Unqualified, not qualified. They've created a candidate. Progressive, far left, extreme. Look at the record, unpopular. Not one single vote. Policies that put America last. Put America last. Different face, same policy that put America last. Now they're reversing policies, trying to go more moderate. Lies and failures, man. And that's all we've seen these past couple of years as millions of people are struggling, are dying. We are declining. A laughing stock now. It all relates back into everything that's happening, man. So I'm glad y'all brought this video to my attention. Love some Senator Kennedy, man. Wow. But I'm glad we got off that Democrat plantation a long time ago, man. And we started to do our research and think for ourselves. Think for yourself. The truth will set you free. Amen. Yes, indeed. But we got to bring common sense back, man. We got to bring common sense back. It's Trump 2024, baby. Let me know how y'all rocking in the comments down below. How do you feel about this whole video? I love you guys. Bless you all and your families. And I will catch you beautiful people in the next one. Peace and love, y'all.